Fans, it's time for another episode of Top 10 with JC. And today's episode is very exciting for me. If you were able to watch episode number 1, you know how passionate I am and how important the sport of basketball is to me. Right now, the WNBA playoffs are in full swing. Started yesterday. We're going to go over some of those games. We're going to do the top 10 WNBA playoff prediction. And in my mind, I think this is how it's going to play out. I want to share it with you. Before we jump directly into my top 10 predictions, I do want to make a comment on, following up from episode number 1 where I say things really kind of frustrate me. So what frustrates me is when I watch announcers who don't have the courage to announce what they're seeing. And if you saw it live, as I did, or you watched it in clips and highlights, Caitlin Clark of the Indiana Fever, who are playing the Connecticut Sun, and they are an underdog, and Connecticut is definitely favored to win and probably pound for pound the better team, but you don't have to cheat. And what do I mean by that? Dejanay Carrington absolutely pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye deliberately. It's deliberate. And I am not someone who is just this, Caitlin Clark defender. She could do no wrong, bashing everybody else. I'm a guard who played in the playground in Brooklyn. No blood, no foul. I coached that way. I coach when you're playing a tough player, and I had players who were quicker than me, and I'd bump them, and I'd play them physical, and that's a strategy, and that's a part of basketball. But doing dirty things like submarining somebody when they go up, for a layup and things like that, I never played that kind of basketball. Good, hard-nosed, physical basketball, and the WNBA boasts that that's what it is. That's fine, and I'm on board for that. And Caitlin Clark understands that, and she's going to have to deal with that. But getting deliberately poked in the eye, and we're going to see a clip right now where there is an angle, specifically you see that Carrington's hand dips down and goes right down into the eye. That is not a swipe through. This wasn't even a shot attempt. Let's be clear about that. So it wasn't even a shot attempt where you're going to block the shot and on the follow through, you hit somebody in the face, which, again, it's unfortunate, but that happens. And that's when they do the review, flagrant 1. This is on a pass into the high post. And basically, if I'm putting my hand up to defend that, this is the way my hand would be. My hand doesn't dip down after the pass and then go down into the eye. It's deliberate. You know that you're going to have a fight on your hands with the Fever. So how do you take out one of the top 3-point offensive threats? You poke her in the eye. And what really bothered me is not only that Carrington did that, and there's no courage to, flagrant her. I would even inject her from the game. And just so you understand, the Draymond Greens of the world and players like that who play very physical, I'm a big fan of those players as well. But even when he crosses the line, he gets thrown out of games. He gets suspended. This league not only doesn't even want to touch that, which really bothers me a whole bunch, but listen to this clip of Ryan Ruocco.
Now, there's nothing Indiana can challenge here because no call on the floor was made. Clearly not on purpose from Carrington.
No, it's absolutely intentional. Have the courage. At Ryan Ruocco. I'm going to be tweeting you. I'm going to be sending this out. I'm going to stand on it. Let me put myself out there. I'll take all the criticism. It's absolutely intentional. And you, my friend, are gutless. That's right. Please share this. You are gutless. Say on national TV, I don't know if you think it's intentional. Say something. You don't have to accuse her on national television, but say something clever like intentional. I don't know. Or accidental, you be the judge. Say something to that context. Be professional enough to at least understand that this is obviously a deliberate act, and you have to do it. I know Rebecca Lobo, she, I'm a fan of her reporting as well, but she's not going to go there. Just be fair with it. At the end of the day, Caitlin Clark probably gets a little too much defense on the internet. I've watched it. I believe it. But that doesn't mean that when lines are crossed, you don't call them out. Because at this particular point in time, we're well beyond, is she worthy of the accolades and things like that? It's first team all WNBA, unanimous rookie of the year, all-time leading scorer in college, back-to-back Final Fours. The woman has it, period. And she's going to, have some physical moments in the league that as a star player, you're going to gasp. That's a part of basketball. I got no problem with it. But crossing the line, deliberately trying to hurt her. And, for those of you who are going to push back and give me anything online or comments in the section and going to say, she herself said that it didn't affect her and she didn't say it was deliberate. Listen, just watch Caitlin Clark for all of 30 seconds in any interview. She always takes the high road, and she's also not going to allow herself to receive criticism. Oh, there's an excuse. There's an excuse. But as someone who has played the sport and coached the sport, you get that deep of a poke. And this wasn't like just a little tap. This was a deep poke in the eye to the point that she actually had a black eye forming during the game. During the game, the black eye formed and now has a black eye. So you wonder why she's shooting 1 for 15, 1 for 16. And again, I am not a Caitlin Clark defender. Shout out Stephanie White. Genius move putting the 6'5" Bonner on her. Absolutely was going to be a distraction. Absolutely, she's part of the scouting report. You have to send people at her. I'm all for that. And she may have had a tough road shooting anyway. So listen to my words. I am not making excuses for Caitlin Clark. What I am saying that 90 seconds into a game, you take a major poke in the eye, your shooting could be off. Even psychologically, just saying, wow, this person is coming for listen, this is eyesight. How long are her nails? This was a deliberate, intentional, forceful act in a person's eyeball to basically say, I know how to get her out of the game. I know how to get her off her game. We're going to poke her in the eye. And just so we're clear about my feelings for Carrington, if you're lining up a whole bunch of players and I got to select a team for championship culture, championship pedigree, people who I want on my team, she'd be that type of guard. She's pesky. She knocks down threes. She plays with great pace. She's intense. She can be physical. We already know she gives Caitlin Clark fits with the handle, and I'm all for all of that, and I'm applaud all of that. So understand, this woman is an all-star in her own right. I know she wasn't on the team. I'm just saying she's that kind of caliber player and definitely a key component to a championship team that Connecticut may be, fielding this year. But you don't got to do that. And you did it. Sis, or whatever you want to call it, you did it, hon. And you deserve to be suspended. You should be suspended, not because of Caitlin Clark, not because of some white-black crap, because that's Bush League. That is so terrible what you did, and you did it. Please don't say like Angel Reese did when Angel Reese slapped Caitlin Clark in the head and said, I was going for the ball. I was going for the ball. Nah. No, that's a part of it too. You know what that's like? And anyone who grew up in a neighborhood where they didn't like someone and they played football and they said, hey, I'm going to run by this dude over here, throw the ball, and then I'll step out of the way and we'll hit him and we'll say, oh, sorry, you were in the way. Or tackle me as I'm running by that guy and it's an oops. It's an intentional thing. So if you go back to the video, Angel Reese on a fast break went for the block shot, didn't come near the ball, cracked Caitlin Clark in the head, knocked it to the ground. That was on purpose. But at least that's a physical play in the game of basketball. Deliberately poking somebody in the eye, that's not physical play. That's cheating. That's terrible. That's assault. And again, I'm a fan of your game, but I'm not a fan of that, Ms. Carrington. And as far as what the league does, they got no guts to step up and suspend a player like that because they don't want to seem like they're favoring Caitlin Clark, which Lord knows they don't do that. And then lastly, and I can't emphasize this enough, shame on you, Ryan Ruocco. Now, are you afraid that if you say something like that, you're going to have to, answer to people? How about answering to the public who's watching what you're watching? And again, you don't have to just come out and deliberately say Carrington did that on purpose. I'm not asking you to be a judge or jury. Just don't be a wimp on national TV and at least have the courage to say, I don't know, intentional, make up your own mind. That's it. You don't even got to throw Lobo under the bus and say, what do you think? And have her kind of chime in. But the video evidence, it's there. It's there. The hand dips down and goes into the eye. It's a pass into the post. Enough said. Please share it. You got something to say to me about it? Let's debate it. But don't tell me it wasn't intentional. And you're entitled to your opinion. And if you don't think it was intentional, I want to hear why. But expect me pushing back on it as well, because I'm standing on it, period. That said, let's get to basketball. Top 10 with JC. Top 10 WNBA playoff recap. Again, just so you know about the show, these are not any particular order. It is not ranked 1 through 10. It's a Mount Rushmore. We're just putting them out there. These are my moments. This is what I think is happening. So let's get to basketball. So the WNBA playoffs started yesterday. The matchups were the Liberty against the Dream, the 1 versus 8. The Fever playing the Connecticut Sun, 3 versus 6. You had the Las Vegas Aces and the Seattle Storm. It was the 4-5. And you had the Lynx versus the Phoenix Mercury. That's the 2-7. Right now, the Liberty hold a 1-0 advantage. The Connecticut Sun hold a 1-0 advantage over the Fever. The Aces beat Seattle 1-0. And you have the Minnesota Lynx took a 1-0 lead. Opening round is best out of 3. Games return Tuesday and Wednesday. And we're going to do the top 10 WNBA playoff predictions from here on out. And number 1 on the list is going to be the Liberty will sweep the Dream. The Liberty did a great job of coming out with tremendous energy, shooting the ball really well. Sabrina Ionescu got him started. And right now, it just looks like way too much firepower for the Dream. You know, the Dream have some players. Really would like to see Ryan Howard make a little bit of a better showing. I don't know that the defense was really kind of keyed on her, so I don't think it was a defensive alignment thing. I just think she's missing some shots. Sometimes I feel like her game, you know, she takes a vacation. I hate to say it. You know, Tina Charles, a consummate pro, always showing up, but they're not going to get a game. I see the Liberty sweeping, and that's top 10 with JC prediction number 1, that the Liberty move on 2-0. Number 2, we have the Lynx are going to sweep the Mercury. You know, obviously the great storyline there is the career of Diana Taurasi. She has not formally said what she's going to do, but right now she's in a playoff mode, so I appreciate why she doesn't want to talk about it. I just think, you know, when push comes to shove, the Lynx have, you know, way too much. They play great defense. Phoenix has been uneven really most of the year, even wound up falling behind Caitlin Clark and the Fever. You know, won't get into that reality is coming comment. That's been well documented. It doesn't take away from the career that Taurasi's had, but I believe it comes to an end. They don't get a game, and that is a 2-0 sweep as well. Number 3 on top 10 with JC WNBA playoff version. Taurasi will announce her retirement after the sweep. So I do believe that, you know, I understand why she doesn't want to talk about it now. Keep distractions to a minimum. I think she's done enough this year to show she probably has some stuff left in the tank. Do not know what her financial situation is. I know she's played for $1 million overseas, but it looks like in this age of podcasting, you see that, you know, Sue Bird, Megan Rapinoe have something going. Obviously, Taurasi's done a lot of the NCAA things where ESPN puts her with Sue Bird, so probably there are some media opportunities available for her. Seems to be a well-liked player, obviously an icon within the WA and the basketball circles. Some people have her as the GOAT, best ever. I don't, but she's certainly in the conversation. The numbers don't lie. You know, she's been a tremendous performer, world champion. I don't know that it's without saying that she could come in and definitely do some things next year and still help a team, but I just feels like she's gonna walk away. So that is prediction number 3 for the top 10 predictions playoff version, that after they get eliminated to Love, she is out of here. That's 3. So we'll go into number 4. The Storm will force a game 3. So I do believe that the Storm, who had a lead against the Aces, will find a way to steal one in Las Vegas. This show originates from Las Vegas. I'm a huge Aces fan. I'm a huge, you know, Asia Wilson fan. Absolutely deserving not only of the MVP, but of a unanimous MVP. Historic season. Showed that championship and just leadership, because I think without her doing Asia things, they don't even get out of game 1 last night. And the Aces, who've played well as of late, have had a very up and down season. I still think they have firepower issues. They have Nneka Ogwumike, still have I know Gabby Williams. They have some players who can definitely you know, do some things, and without a doubt a worthy adversary. And I think they steal one. So I think they do get one in Las Vegas and send it back to Seattle. For those who don't know, the WNBA format is 2 games at the higher seed, and then if there is a deciding game, it actually moves to the road team, which is an interesting way to do it. You would think that if you have the higher seed, you would have the luxury of the deciding factor being in front of your home crowd. Why do they do that? They do that because the travel was so expensive. This is the way that they don't have to go back and forth, back and forth. Caitlin Clark obviously is changing the economics, and I would bet, and this is not part of the prediction, this is just me, spewing what I believe is going to be fact, and that's next year you will see that they will travel back and forth, and they won't penalize the higher seed because now they will have the money to afford the charter flights necessary to go back and forth. So shout out Caitlin Clark when that happens, because if it wasn't for her and these billion-dollar media deal, that wouldn't happen either. But with all that said, I do believe we see a game 3 in that series. Number 5 on the list, the Fever will force a game 3. And I do believe that the Fever have their hands full. I do think they're a little bit outmatched. I do think that the adjustments made by Stephanie White, and she did a great job, independent of, we just documented it, what Carrington did, which was terrible. Aside from all of that, the Fever didn't shoot well. I felt that, Mabry played a stellar game, and she's a good shooter. So it's not to say that she doesn't have that in her, but she played exceptional, absolute difference maker. The Fever, were coming back and forth, had a lead, midway through, eventually just too much firepower. And I do believe that the poke in the eye, I don't care what Caitlin says. I know that she's going to, always take the high road. But as someone who, you turn an ankle, you get poked in the eye during the game, it's a factor. It's a factor. She's too classy to say that it was. But I do believe that, you get yourself right, you get your body right, you get your mind right. I think that they have the weaponry, and I think that they can make the adjustments necessary. And I'm not looking for, Connecticut to shoot as well as they did. I'm looking for the Fever to shoot a lot better than they showed. And I do think they're able to get a game at Mohegan Sun and force a game 3 with Connecticut. They've been close throughout the year, played a close game and lost, played another game and won. And this game, before it got out of hand, was a good battle. I think overall Connecticut is the better team, but I do believe that the Fever can make the necessary adjustments and force a game 3. So that's prediction number 5. Number 6, Vegas will be eliminated. So after Vegas goes to Seattle for game 3, I think Seattle gets them at home. I think that all year long, this Vegas team, has been riding the shoulders of A'ja Wilson. And that's why she's just so deserving of the MVP. She's done such an incredible job. But at some point, especially in the playoffs, when you're playing, a talented team like the Seattle Storm are, and, pretty well coached as well, you have to have other players step up. And they just don't have it. I mean, Tiffany Hayes is a vet, really showed what she's made of in game 1. Chelsea Gray has been, just look unhealthy all year long. Very talented player. Kelsey Plum is a scorer. Don't know that she's, she can shoot when she's hot. So can I predict that she's not going to be hot? Of course not. Obviously, she's an X factor. If she shows up, perhaps Vegas wins the series. But to me, it just looks like a very uneven team all year. And with that said, if you do game plan to find ways to kind of throw bodies and make it difficult for A'ja Wilson and force some of the other players to beat you, I think that's the formula. And also the outside shooting has been so inconsistent that if you're not getting the points from A'ja Wilson and you don't get, some good shooting on the perimeter, they can be had. I know it's a bold prediction to, first of all, even say that the Aces won't sweep after winning game 1 and that they'll even wind up back in Seattle. But then to say that they'll wind up back in Seattle as the higher seed and then get knocked off as the 2-time defending champion. Listen, if you're going to make predictions, you got to have a pair. You know what I mean? So that's my prediction, and that's the Aces will not repeat, and they will get eliminated. That all said, I believe the Connecticut Sun will have the opposite effect. I think they will lose game 2. I think they will go to game 3. Gainbridge Fieldhouse will be going crazy. It'll be a tremendous atmosphere. It'll be appointment television. And I think the adjustments will be made by Stephanie White to get game 3. I don't think the Fever move on. I think the Fever actually get it to a game 3, and everything will be set up, for a really great audience to cheer them on and, anticipate that this is a team of destiny playing some of the best basketball of anybody in the league at the end of the year. And yet, again, as an old basketball coach and player that I am, this Connecticut team they're deep. They're deep. And also the Fever team, they're missing a piece or two. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it's just not enough for Aaliyah Boston to try and win an entire middle for all the players that Connecticut can throw at them. Obviously, Kelsey Mitchell is going to do her thing. I think Caitlin will play better, but the Nalissa Smith, love Lexi Hull, love what she brings, but Temi Fagbenle, there's just not another person that gets them 12, 15 points. Can Nalissa Smith do it? Can Fagbenle do it? Can Lexi Hull do it? They can do it. But with Connecticut's defense, with the depth that they have, with the firepower that they have, the veteran leadership that they have, DeWanna Bonner, one of the top 2-3 all-time scorers in playoff history, and then some of the adjustments that I think they'll make after the Fever, surprise them in game 2. You'd think, wow, how can you say they're going to win on the road and then go home and lose? But I just think that I think that's the way it's going to play out. I think the Fever do get eliminated. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be cheering for the Fever. I'm going to be cheering for the Fever in game 2 and in game 3. But just, want to keep it honest here. Don't want to be biased. I do believe that the Fever do get eliminated. Great season. Going to add some pieces and come back stronger than ever. But I really hope that the upper echelon, not just because of we got to protect her at all costs, because she's our meal ticket, she's our paycheck. And a lot of that is true. But you just can't have physical play be, a mask for dirty play. And there's just been, whether it's the Kennedy Carter bump or some of these other things, that's just not physical play. That's not basketball. That is deliberate attack on another human being. And it just doesn't fly. It's got to be outlawed, and it's got to be penalized harshly to be a deterrent, not just for her, but for anybody. Whether it's Paige Becker's coming, whether it's, Juju's coming at some point from USC. Quite frankly, I don't see them getting the type of hate that Caitlin's going to get, and I have my opinions on that. And we'll talk about that. And here's a little quick teaser. In about a week or so, one of our top 10 episodes is going to feature a couple of women legends. And as we get more of that finalized on what date, we'll put that out there. But look for that. That'll be a great interview as well. But for right now, I think the Fever season ends at the hands of the Connecticut Sun. Number 8. The Liberty will take out the Storm. So after we have already said who's going to advance into the semis, we now have the Liberty facing the Storm in one semifinal. And I think the Liberty just have too much. After the Storm, emotional win, knocking off the Aces, I just don't see them matching up over the course of, and that'll be, best out of 5. 3, you got to win 3 out of 5. And I just think, pound for pound, the Liberty probably are the most complete team. Seem like they're on a mission this year. They have a lot of people that can step up, a lot of talent, a lot of depth, well coached. And at the end of the day, I think too much for the Storm to handle. So the Liberty will be moving on to the WNBA Finals. In the other semi, we have the Lynx against the Sun, and I believe that the Lynx will beat the Sun. So the Sun, will come into Gamebridge, win that emotional game 3, and then they'll have to face the Lynx, who, Nafisa Collier and that whole squad, they play defense, they play offense for 40 minutes. Again, well coached, the Olympic coach who disagreed with some of the things she did with Caitlin Clark early in the year, but I'm not going to be a hater. Obviously, one of the more talented coaches. Her record, backs that up. Nafisa Collier was a worthy person to get a lot of MVP votes. Again, Aja Wilson deserves it on every metric, but that doesn't take away from the incredible year Nafisa Collier showed out this year. Offense, defense, leadership, star in this league. And definitely, if you ask her what would she rather have, a championship or the MVP, I'm going to guess she would say championship. And to do that, you got to get to that game. And I believe that they get to the championship series and they knock off the Sun. And then last but not least, the 10th and final top 10 WNBA playoff prediction. Collier gets it. The Lynx knock off the Liberty. Old New Yorker here. Went to the Liberty games when they first started at Madison Square Garden. I've seen so many different versions of the New York Liberty, great teams, what it would mean to New York, and they would rally behind. They love that team, and the Jason Sudeikis and all the fans that go to the Barclays Center now. It's not the Garden now; it's actually in Brooklyn. It's not even in Manhattan now. You go into Brooklyn, and as someone who's born and raised in New York and have this New York accent, I should be picking the Liberty, and I'll be rooting for the Liberty. I will, but that's not what this show is about. I said from episode 1, we're here to tell the truth. We're here to keep it 100. Keep it a buck, as the young people say these days. You know what I mean? So if I'm going to do my job and be someone who's going to stand on business and stand on truth, I got to tell you what my basketball mind tells me. And my basketball mind tells me that the Lynx are the most complete team this year. They play offense, they play defense. They don't have the lulls, they don't have the lapses. They have firepower. It's just a really, really well put together team, and they play together. And I think it'll be a great series. I certainly think the Liberty are probably, you know, maybe in certain positions more talented, but I think top to bottom, the Lynx just play a more complete game, and it's teams that win championship, not individual players. Also, I think Breanna Stewart puts a lot on her shoulders, and I think that they have a little bit of the Aces problem, is that sometimes some of their stars just kind of go in and out. Ionescu, she can go 1 for 10 as easily as she can go 6 for 10. That's not to say she's not a great player, but I just don't see them as, every game, drop dead, dead eye shooter. I just think that there are lapses, and in a finals series like that, where there just seems to be a need for more consistent play, and again, that good defense that they show. Also, they have good size, good athleticism. So the Lynx get it done this year. Let me know what you think. Certainly, we hope that you will give us a like. If you do not agree with the content, but you like the way it's being, offered, give us a like. And then when you give us a like, tell us what you don't like about my predictions. Hit us up on socials. You got at Top 10 with JC, Top 10 with JC at gmail.com, top10withjc.com. That's the website. Visit us, talk to us, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know your opinions, where you think I'm getting it right, where you think I'm getting it wrong. If you have anything you'd like to see as a top 10, put it out there. But really excited to get this out to the public before it happens, so that we can all, revisit this in a couple of weeks and just see if I was, totally out of my skull, or maybe, 30 years of basketball has shown me something. Just know that I love hoop. I love tough play, but there's just no place in any sport, basketball, football, I don't care what it is, for that kind of cheap nonsense. And whether it's a great player or just anybody, it just doesn't belong in the game. And I'll always applaud a tough player. I'll always applaud intensity, but not that nonsense, not at all. Until we see you guys next time. And we got some great stuff coming up, some NFL players, and we're going to tease it out there and put it out there. But keep an eye out for some of the great celebrities and some of the great icons of their sport that are going to join us here at Top 10 with JC. Until next time, love you guys. Thank you so much.
ProPod Digital.